Hung stood in front of his house, the feeling of exhaustion and heaviness weighing down every step he took. Everything around him seemed to blur, leaving only thoughts of his family and the responsibilities he had yet to fulfill lingering in his mind. Over the past months, he had pushed himself to the limit, with work at times forgetting about his own needs. But today, standing here, he truly felt the weight of the burdens he carried. His family especially. Hoài Ca had always been the one standing behind him, offering support care and a steady source of emotional strength. But what about him? Was he strong enough to be the pillar for the people who loved him? Particularly Tony, his little son who always sought comfort and love from his father. Hung knew that no matter how hard he tried, he could never fully replace the sacrifices Hoài Ca had made for their family. The responsibilities Hung bore were not only financial, but also emotional, providing care and affection for his loved ones. He couldn't just work tirelessly and forget about the bonds of love and connection that tied them together. Hoài Ca and Tony needed him not only for material support, but also for his presence, his companionship in life's hardships. No matter how heavy the pressures of work and society became, Hung understood that the most important thing was love and caring for his family. He could no longer ignore these truths. Though Hoài Ca was resilient and strong, even a woman as steadfast as her still needed a shoulder to lean on, a man to share her burdens. And that man had to be him. He could no longer live in avoidance of this responsibility. Hoài Ca, with all the sacrifices and love she had devoted to her son Tony, had overcome countless challenges in life. She was not only a wonderful mother, but also a strong, resilient woman who stood firm against life's storms. Despite the hardships she had endured, she always managed to maintain peace within the home, doing everything she could to ensure her son grew up in an environment filled with love and safety, yet no one truly saw what she had gone through. The late nights and early mornings spent preparing for the day ahead, the times she faced every worry alone, from finances to raising Tony. She carried the entire family on her shoulders, and even though a woman's strength has its limits, Hoài Ca steadfastly refused to allow herself to fall. She always found ways to give Tony a life of happiness and security, even if it meant sacrificing her own time and well-being. Hoài Ca deserved to live a peaceful life, not one consumed by endless worries. She deserved a man who would love her, share her burdens, and stand by her side through everything. But Hung was not that man. No matter how hard he tried, he could not give her the peace and happiness she truly deserved. Tony too was the greatest source of motivation for Hoài Ca, the reason she kept fighting and never gave up. But the boy also needed a true father figure, not just a man bound by duty, but someone who understood how to love and care for his family. In Tony's eyes, his mother's love was the only thing he could rely on. But every child needs a fatherly role model to grow and thrive. And that was what Hoài Ca wanted for her son. Hoài Ca and Tony deserved a life free from fear about the future, free from facing challenges alone. They deserved the care and love that only a truly worthy man could give them, a man who not only knew how to love, but also how to protect them and make them feel safe in every circumstance. Hung felt as if his heart had stopped beating as he stood face to face with an undeniable truth. The more he thought about it, the more he realized how many chances he had missed to become the man Hoya Ca and Tony truly needed. He had been too focused on work, too consumed by his own personal pursuits, and in doing so, he had forgotten what truly mattered. The realization struck him like a hard slap across the face, forcing him to confront himself more harshly than ever before. When he looked into Tony's eyes, Hung could feel the sadness and longing reflected in the boy's gaze. Although Tony couldn't put it into words, Hung could see the loneliness, the absence of a true father figure in his life. Hoya Ca was no different. For far too long, she had carried everything on her own, from raising their child to handling every financial burden without anyone she could truly rely on. She had become a woman so strong that she never let anyone see her pain. Yet Hung knew that deep inside, she still longed for someone who could stand beside her and share the weight. Hung could no longer ignore the reality that despite his love and care for Hoya Ca, he wasn't enough to bring her peace. He couldn't be her shield, couldn't be the solid anchor she deserved. In the moments when she needed him most, he hadn't been there. In the times when she was exhausted, he failed to notice her weakness. And now, standing in front of the house he once believed he could protect and care for, Hung realized that if he didn't change, he would always remain an irresponsible man. Confronted with this truth, he felt an overwhelming sense of emptiness. He couldn't continue living in the shadow of his own shortcomings, couldn't keep running from the immense responsibility that Hoya Ca and Tony placed on his shoulders. He had to change, not only for himself, but for them, the people he loved most in this world. Hung could no longer lie to himself. He had failed to fulfill his role as the man of the family, and that could not go on any longer. If he truly loved Hoya Ca and Tony, if he genuinely wanted them to have a peaceful and happy life, then he had to be the one to change. He had to rise up and do whatever it took to become the man they needed. Hung stood in the darkness of his own shadow, overwhelmed by feelings of loss and regret. He knew that no matter how much he wished for it, time could never turn back. Everything was already too late. The house he had once hoped would be a safe haven for Hoya Ca, and Tony was no longer his home. These walls, these objects around him, everything had become nothing more than tear-stained memories. Hung felt like a failure, unable to protect the people he loved most. And yet he realized that things could not remain this way forever. He couldn't live in the past, couldn't keep dwelling on regret and mistakes. It was time to face a difficult decision. He had to leave. He couldn't continue living in this house, knowing he couldn't give Hoya Ca and Tony what they truly deserved. He had to let them find a new future, a new life, where they could finally feel safe and happy. Though he didn't want to, he knew that sometimes sacrifice was necessary. Hung couldn't keep holding them back. He knew he had to leave everything behind, even the beautiful memories they once shared, so that Hoya Ca and Tony could find the happiness and peace they deserved. He could not be the source of their pain and disappointment any longer. Hoya Ca and Tony would have a new chance, a chance to live in an environment free from uncertainty, free from worries about the future. A more deserving man would one day come into their lives, bringing the peace that Hung could never give them. Though he loved them deeply, he knew they needed someone stronger to protect and care for them, a man who could be Hoya Ca's anchor and a true father to Tony. When Hung turned his back and walked away, he didn't look at the house one last time. His entire life, everything he had, he left behind. His steps were now steadier and more determined than ever before. Even though the road ahead was uncertain, he knew he had to keep walking, not just for himself, but for the future of Hoài Ca and Tony. Hung had accepted that sometimes you have to let the people you love take their own path so they can find what's best for them. He couldn't change the past, but at the very least, he could help them find a brighter future.
Xin chào mọi người, chào mừng trở lại với câu chuyện ấm lòng này về Hoài Ca, một bà mẹ đơn thân, kiên cường đã trải qua tất cả. Cuộc sống chưa bao giờ dễ dàng với cô, nhưng chính trong những khoảnh khắc thử thách đó, cô tìm thấy sức mạnh của mình. Nếu bạn có thể đồng cảm với hành trình của cô, đừng quên nhấn nút thích và đăng ký để bạn có thể tiếp tục theo dõi chúng tôi trên con đường cảm hứng này. Đó là một buổi sáng yên bình, ánh nắng nhẹ nhàng xuyên qua những chiếc lá báo hiệu sự khởi đầu của một ngày mới. Hôm nay Hà đưa bé Tôm đến trường để Hoài Ca có thể nghỉ ngơi. Từ sau vụ việc, Hoài Ca rất cảnh giác với việc gặp lại người lạ hoặc đến những nơi xa lạ. Hà hiểu điều đó và đã cố gắng để giúp cô bé vượt qua những mọi khoảnh khắc. Sau khi đưa Tony đi, Hà không nghỉ ngơi mà vội vã quay lại với Hoài Ca, người đang đợi anh. Họ có một kế hoạch cho ngày hôm nay, một cuộc phiêu lưu nhỏ trong rừng để tìm măng. Họ có đó là công việc khó khăn nhưng lương thiện, và nó mang lại cho họ một chút niềm tin và một chút thu nhập. Với những chiếc giỏ, dao và nước trên tay, họ đi bộ theo xuống một con đường rừng hẹp. Những hàng cây cao vút dọc theo con đường của họ và tiếng hót vui tươi của những chú chim vang vọng trong không khí làn gió mát mang theo mùi đất của rừng. Hoài Ca không nói nhiều nhưng đôi mắt cô sáng lên với một hy vọng thầm lặng. Đi bộ trong đêm hè, cô cảm thấy sự bình yên mà cô đã không trải qua trong một thời gian dài. Trên đường đi, họ chia nhau ra để tìm kiếm, che cẩn thận tìm kiếm nơi có chồi có thể nảy mầm. Không phải lúc nào cũng dễ dàng, đôi khi họ phải theo những vết cũ hoặc băng qua những con suối nhỏ, nhưng họ vẫn kiên nhẫn, biết dù công việc đòi hỏi sự chính xác và kỹ năng.